Hi everyone, good morning. Myself Sai Krishna. Me, Aswini Kumar. We are from AWS into database migrations, basically handling homogeneous and heterogeneous migrations. So today we're going to present what are the interesting and what we call top features of PostgreSQL 18 when comparing with the older versions, right? Yeah. So today's agenda, like we see, right? So introduction, and we have the core performance enhancements compared to the older versions, and then the advanced features, which are dive deep with some small demos, and we have the replication features, right? And coming to the security, so as most of are waiting, right? So what are the different security features or the enhancements in Postgres 18? So we'll be having a look into that as well. And what are the key takeaways from this session, right? So we came up with our sample data, right? Just a disclaimer that these are our findings and interests which we put on to get some focus on PostgreSQL 18 features so that we have more interest coming in and more features to be developed in the next versions, right?
Yeah, the benchmarks that was given over here are purely based on the data that we have tested. This cannot be considered as the refined or the benchmarking numbers.
Yeah. So if you see, right, this is not limited to this particular target audience, right? Next comes the main one who are basically interested in Postgres, right? Postgres enthusiasts. So coming to the main features, or what we can say that the high level takeaways kind of thing, which is Postgres, why it is preferred, right? So it's a fastest growing database, like you see, I mean, this is from Gardner. And coming to the next, right, what is the adoption level, right? What we call observing 23 and 24, it's approximately greater than 25, right? So where we have the commercial databases migrating to open source databases, so that's where we see some high core that area. And coming to the third point, right, it's one of the best, what we say, Postgres is best chosen for modernization and cost reduction. As I said, most of the commercial workloads are being migrated to Postgres, the open source, to avoid cost, what we say, incur, right, in their workloads. Coming to the next one, like we are saying, right, in our previous sessions, and yesterday we had a what we call session as well as workshop for AML, how Postgres is being what we call integrated with AML and the new challenges we come up, right? So that is where it is being chosen as a top choice for the innovation and acceleration, right? In PG vector area. Ashwini, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to add we have new SQL constructs which is being introduced in PostgreSQL 18. We will see and we will also see the small demos for the new SQL constructs that was introduced in the PostgreSQL 18. And we also see the what level of observability enhancements that was offered by Postgres 18 beta 3.
Yeah. So coming to the core performance, right, basically, so we just chosen top 5 so that to limit to this particular time. So coming to asynchronous, right, so previously with 17, 15 or the major versions, we have the synchronous commit, right? Synchronous reads of transactions. So just to avoid that, so the new feature which is launched is asynchronous IO, which reduces the parallel reads on the disk so that the transaction or the first transaction need not to wait for the completion, whether it is getting the data or committing to a disk, right? So that helps or plays a key role in parallel reads, mostly improving nearly 20 to 30%. As we said, it's based on our data and our, what we say, experiments, yeah? So coming to the next one, okay. So this is the basic differences like you see, right? Synchronous versus asynchronous. What is the execution model? Okay. Hello. I think I'm audible, right? Okay. I think fine. Okay. Basically coming to the execution models, right? So coming to the synchronous, as we all know. Hello. I think this is just okay. So as we know, basic idea about synchronous, right? So I think most of you know how the synchronous commits would work. It would be in a queue, we can say, right? If you take an example of Amazon delivery, right? if that delivery is included with an OTP, right? So it cannot be delivered or the agent will not be freed, right? Unless that particular delivery is given to the ordered guy. So that would be blocking the other reads, just to compare. But coming to the asynchronous, it does not block any reads, right? So it is independent of the reads or the traffic. It will get the data and it helps the parallel reads on the disk. Yeah. And coming to the performance impact, okay. Okay, this is the high level what got changed in Postgres 18. You see, the method, earlier it was the default to synchronous commit, and now in Postgres 18, it can be modified, whether we need to have the IO method as synchronous or based on the worker. Coming to the Linux, we have as IO uring, I think, yeah. IO uring. So these are the two different options or the features we can say got added in Postgres 18, so that these are the benefits, you see, right? Technical impact, what it can impact. CPU utilization, of course, uh, based on the IO weights, we can have better CPU utilization. And coming to the concurrent connections, like we said, we have multiple connections to have the data getting from the disk, right? And the next one is the context switching. So just to have a one-liner, right? The priority of the process would be given by the processor to have a CPU or process for that particular request, right? So that basically comes with the content switching priority, basically, right? So that reduced in asynchronous I/O, and these are the benefits, like we said, X factor, right? For the bulk operations, mostly the read workloads, and a slight improvement. What we can say it's as a 2-digit definitely in the mixed workloads. And the new system view which is introduced is PGIO, iOS, right? AIOS, sorry. So that helps us in finding out the asynchronous behavior of the particular request what we get. Yeah. So if you see, right, this is the new view which is being added, and you see we modified the IO method as IO uring, right? And yeah.
Yeah, this view helps us to give some observability on how the asynchronous actions is being performed. And you can see on the screen the IO that I have queried on the PostgreSQL 18.3, the beta. And there are two options available for the this property to be set, and the allowed values are sync and worker. Sync is the current behavior of PostgreSQL 17, right? So if you happen to set the worker as a property for the PGIOS, then you will you turn on that feature of the asynchronous in the PostgreSQL 18.3 beta.
So one more interesting feature is the B-tree skip scan, right? So mostly we see when we run a particular select query with index, right? The B-tree is being selected, but the new interesting feature or the enhancement in the B-tree feature is that it skips irrelevant index pages so that it directly goes to the root or what we call requested value. Let's see what it eliminates. You see, right? So what are the basic technical impacts? So it just skips the unnecessary index pages. Okay. And reads the low cardinality. Like we said, right? The page level data is being directly accessed instead of reading which are not relevant to that particular search criteria, right? With this, we can have the optimized queries, like we said, right, in the where clause. So that helps more in skipping the B trees which are not required than in the index pages. Yeah. So with this, of course, reduce the IO operations, so we don't need to scan all the index pages, and that gives us 40%, nearly 40% of the queries, like we said, right, based on these particular composite indexes and the search. It depends on the search criteria. This is a simple example. Let me zoom in. Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can.
So for the example that we have chosen over here, we have tested for both 17.5 on the left-hand side and 18.3 beta on the right-hand side. We see the drastic improvement in terms of the total processing time. So if you look at in the left-hand side, it is total, the actual time it took 81 seconds, and here it remains same. However, if you look at the index which is being used, the underlying index, so it actually skipped one of the index which has a redundancy. So that you can see, and you also can see the differences in terms of the buffer hit, the shared buffer hit. In the 17, it was identified 232 is the buffer hit, whereas in 18.3, it all the way come down to 150. So not only that, if you look at the cost, the query cost, so in 17.x, so it is 2563 is the total cost was given for the query, whereas here it come down to 1560. So this is the drastic improvement when we handle or when we happen to work on this particular scenario.
Yeah. And one more interesting, right? So who are, what you call daily working with queries, or mostly the developers, right? Building the code. So they will feel this feature to be interesting, so that like Oracle or the other commercial databases, right? Now Postgres has become intelligent. I mean, the algorithms are being improved, we can say, to eliminate some of the data which is not required for that particular thing. So that we can see in this particular smarter or in conditions where we search the data, right? So with this we can get an improvement of 50% yearly, right? With multiple or conditions, basically we'll filter down the data or the criteria, right? While yesterday we saw where we rewrite the Oracle query, right? We cannot directly migrate as it is to Postgres. So based on the existing architecture or the features, we would rewrite the code. So these features would help us in what you call adding this particular functionality to the migrated code, basically, right? Which help us in improving the performance. Now you can see on the left side we have the number of rows, right, or the cost when compared to this is I think we can go with the next one. One second. Yeah. Right. So this is the high-level summary we ran for OR clause with multiple combinations, and as well as a complex in or conditions. In 17.3, right, we could say it says 12 and 5 milliseconds, when compared to in 18, it came down to 10 and 5, right? So it could be 40 to 50% reduction, so that we generally ignore these kind of small advanced features, right? So that's the best that Postgres can handle it intelligently.
Yeah, we test with these metrics we captured for 1 million records, but if your volume get increased, this number may go up, right? The improvement may be brought into the picture, and you will see smaller in number.
Yeah, and like we were saying, right, most of these features initially discussed are basically to developers or the DBAs, right, who on daily basis we work with the code or modification of the queries. So this is again a beautiful feature, like what you call optimized set operations. With this, right, like most of us will be writing that intersect except queries, so, right? With this we can get 55% nearly. Just a second. Okay. So if you go to the execution plan, right, you see this is improvement in the memory management, the number of bytes used, right, you see 6,000 changed KB, and if you compare in the 18, it's reduced to 4,000. So that is where it is enough intelligent to use the memory, so that we have less burden on the database or the shared buffers. Like yesterday we were discussing, it could be 20 to 50% or can be modified based on the workloads. So in that way, this factor will add some, some room or memory can be used in other operations. Right?
Utilizing the database resources at its max.
Yeah. Again, this is the one more example.
We have do a multiple tests on these particular scenarios where we have get a chance to capture all of them.
Yeah, I think now we'll get back to advanced features, dive deep.
Yeah. Thanks, Sai. So there are few advanced features that we can think of. One is the virtual generated columns, which is, in other words, we can call it as the calculated columns. And also we will see the enhanced observability, what kind of observability is being offered in PostgreSQL 18. So when we happen to generate the virtual columns, earlier the property we used to use is the stored. With the stored keyword, we define a table or the column which is being marked as a calculated, right? So when it comes to the PostgreSQL 18, we have an option to make it the property or the hint called virtual. So if you give a property virtual when you define a column, so those will be calculated on the fly. But with this approach, two things we need to take a note of it. It is if your workloads are write heavy or if your workloads are read heavy. So first we need to list that down. What is the scenario that you are going to play? And based on that, you need to take a decision of it. And I have a small example that I have considered to check on this particular feature. So this is the table that I have chosen, and I have taken the JSON-V as a data type for one of the column, which captures the data, and followed by I have also defined few of the columns where I have gone with the virtual property, and I have loaded 2 records, and after that I test this using. So here you can see. Yeah, here's typically if you can see the table, magnify it. Yeah. Can check the table where I have given the clear, there is a cloud, can you just move over there. So in PG18, so we use that keyword stored, whereas when it comes to the PostgreSQL 18, right? So generated always. So you can define the logic how that column should be. So you can concatenate with multiple columns. So if you look at the data, so in the previous slide, so that I have given, I have loaded the JSON-B type data, right? So I haven't bifurcated these columns. However, when I do a query on the top, if you go top left, yeah. So what I have done is I just given the list of columns that I want, but these are all not actual physical columns that are exist in the table, right? So when I query that, so on the fly, the calculation is being applied for each of the column that was shown up there.
Yeah.
But when you do a bulk select operations or your workloads are read heavy, then in that case, you will see a little overhead on the select which is being submitted to the database, right? But your writes will be quite fast with a disclaimer.
Yeah, I mean, basically, during the insertion, right? So, of course, the column should be computed with the particular values or the calculation. So that's where inserts will definitely take time. So this helps in most of the loads where we want to have the read heavy traffics with the, what we say, virtual generated columns. Yeah.
Yeah. So here typically you can see the differences where there is a, sorry.
Zoom in.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have listed down the key differences between the computation storage when it comes to the performance trade-offs, and availability. And when you do the update, what kind of overhead or trade-offs will be considered and the optimal use cases? This, I will move to the next developer construct, which is capturing the old values. Capturing the old values.
Right, yeah.
This is a traditional way of capturing the old values, right? So if you perform any update and you want,
I think that is not working. Yeah, I think how many of you have worked what you call on auditing? Basically, we get the old values, right? Definitely. I mean, most of the users would be modifying the data you want to capture, right? So you need to get the old values what they have updated, basically. So This is the query or what you call pattern we use to get the old values, correct? Earlier in the
No,
older
in the
versions.
current PostgreSQL 17 or lower environments, so we use this approach to get the values which are being written, right?
Update, yeah.
Previous image. So let's say if you happen to run an update, so you want to get the previous image a brief moment before it get updated to the database. So what is the current value which is being considered to change, right? So if you go to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, here you can see in the left-hand side, I try to run the same query which is compatible for PostgreSQL 18. However, I try to attempt to run it in the PostgreSQL 17, which throws an error. In the previous slide, we have seen how to capture the values using the written class, right? So in PostgreSQL 18, this is a new feature where you can see within the same query, the update is remains same. You just need to call out the old and new values for each of the column that you require. So if you happen to run this with PostgreSQL 18.3, the beta, you will get this output, both new and old image of the values.
Yeah, just to add, right? So when you're migrating the SQL Server magic tables, if anyone has worked on that, right? So magic tables in SQL Server, insert and delete. So those we were facing challenges to get the old values, definitely. So with this feature, I think we can fill that gap in getting the old values.
Okay. Happen to migrate your workloads from commercial to open source, right? Most of the commercial databases has this feature in place, which is a, what I can say, like the feature, right? So whereas PostgreSQL recently introduced this feature to give the compete to the commercial databases. So another interesting feature is the function, well-known function lower. Everybody quite use the lower function when you perform some wildcard operations or when you happen to search something on the column, right? So you don't want to get the values filter because of the upper and lower case. So there is an interesting new function which is being introduced in SQL 18, which is case fold. So I have a small 30 seconds demo, so where you can see how the case fold will work.
It's a replacement for lower so that we can see some improvement in query performance as well.
Correct. That also will be demoed here.
I'm just.
So you can see the query plan where the actual time. So when I use the lower, is the when I use the lower, it has given these details, the query plan. If I happen to use the case fold, you can see the drastic difference between the total query processing time and the resource utilization.
And as well as if we add what you call functions like lower or upper onto the search column, definitely the indexes are not being used. But just to avoid that, we have this case fold function, which I think adds more nearly 50 to 60% you see, right? So
Correct, yeah. These are all with 1 million records, right? So if you're, again, based on the volume, you may see the drastic improvement. Okay, coming to the replication features, how many of them were using replication, logical replication in PostgreSQL? Okay, hope you are familiar with logical replication and with its trade-offs, right? So PostgreSQL 18 is being offered with a logical replication, the DDL support. That's a major thing that they have brought in. These features will be available in October 2025 when the PostgreSQL is generally available. Please note that. So it is not readily available now. Okay. When general available product release, probably you can see this on action. Just go ahead.
huh? All right.
The next one is the authentication, right? We have also the TLS support. So transport layer is the security option that was given.
Okay.
So I try to make you understand by just depicting this picture. So the OAuth, I will not much talk about what is the concept of OAuth, but when you happen to sign into your any e-commerce portal, you don't really require to give and sign up with by giving all the details, right? So you can just go ahead and choose the Google account. So most of the e-commerce websites allow make you to get registered through an existing Gmail account or Microsoft account or whatnot, any prominently known email providers, right? So if you look at in the left-hand side, a user has an approach to an e-commerce portal and they attempt to sign into it. And then once you give them the login details, it will directly go and validate the details that you have given with the email provider. And email provider will acknowledge that with issuing a JSW token, right? JSON security token will be granted. That token will be matched against the e-commerce website, right? And then e-commerce website will be given access to the database. So this is a small example that I consider to make you understand the OAuth, which is a new feature which is available in PostgreSQL 18. So coming to the TLS, it's a transport layer which is a new offering. I will not be much talk about it. So earlier we used to use SSL, right? Now there is a TLS, a improved version of TLS. And this is required to make a communication between the external services to the database. This protocol is very much important. So other notable changes are the temporals without this required GIN B3 is the extension that is required, and the smooth major version upgrades, the parallel copy and whatnot, the other features. So we cover pretty much a few of them. We haven't covered all of them. Okay. So here the key takeaways, the first one is the synchronous, as I mentioned, the synchronous, asynchronous, which is a great change in the approach of PostgreSQL 17 versus 18 feature. And the IO subsystem subsequently, if you change the asynchronous versus synchronous, so IO will drastically get changed as we discussed, right? So if a query is being submitted to the database engine to get processed, multiple queries can be performed or it leads to the parallel discrete, right? And valve writing also got improved. Vacuum, importantly, the vacuum also got changed, vacuum and analyze. But we don't get chance to. And the BT is skip scan and OR operator and set operators. Yeah, we already covered the generated columns, the virtual one, and here the references are. Yeah, that's all. Any questions?
Please scan and provide your feedback so that try to add more content in the next sessions.
Which helps us to improve our presentation and enrich our content.
Any questions still? I think we have.
Yeah. Logical replication. So there are certain improvements that was brought in when the logical replication is being enabled, right? So there are certain conflicts will be, those can be tracked. But I haven't get a chance to deep dive into it, what new features that they have brought in. But with the help of one view, we can see the insights of the conflicts which is happened when you enable the logical replication. That is the one key takeaway that I had found. So, correct. Yeah, there is a one view, probably I can connect you offline where I can share the details, but I did not get it to accommodate those details in this slide. So it is not generally available as of now, it is still in database. So we need to wait till October 2025 to get this generally available version of a PostgreSQL 18. Yes. And there are also few trade-offs for the one which that are currently, which is being released in the beta, which is they are working on to improvise that. Yeah, we can see them on the release notes in generally available in October.
So Amit, do you have any points to add on? I think you have been working on this as well, right? So 18 new
Yeah,
features.
you want to add anything?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
True, true.
Yeah. Yes. The interesting point that he was talking about is enabling the DDLs while we enable the logical replication.
Any more questions? Or I think please feel free to connect with us if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Thank you. I think feedback is done.